This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time TNA bring in an MMA fighter, he'll actually, do something. Every once in a while, someone will take me to task for being too nitpicky, too negative in my approach to reviewing this show every week. I like to think I'm critical but fair, and when I am negative, it's because TNA earned that negativity by doing something, well, not so smart. But inevitably, there's going to be some keyboard warrior out there who's always going to say, "You're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about, you're bashing TNA for no reason." I think I finally understand what it's like to be in their shoes now, because that's kind of how I felt watching people's reactions to the conclusion of Impact this week. And I'll get to that, but not just yet. For now, let's begin at the beginning. Oh man, you know you're in for a great Impact when the show starts with Taz not only being kept off the announce team, but getting banned from the building entirely. JB was still in there with Tenay, which meant that we got actual good commentary for the 3rd week in a row. Yes! 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 And if you thought Impact couldn't possibly open better than that, they immediately proved you wrong by starting the show with Austin Aries hyping his main event match on this very show against AJ Styles.
Yes! 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 Yes!
You know, for all this talk I've heard lately about how TNA isn't giving the fans what they want and blah blah blah, I hope that'll quiet down now, because that's pretty much exactly what they did here. TNA let the fans vote on a bunch of different BFG series cards that they wanted to see. Not shockingly, the fans voted for the one with Styles versus Aries, so that's what TNA gave them. Now, was it dumb to give the match away with so little fanfare and no real story behind it? Yeah. But with both men in the BFG series, this match was going to happen on TV at some point anyway, so they might as well give it to the fans when they ask for it. Aries did a fine job hyping the match. I was crapping myself in anticipation for it. Then Bobby Roode comes out, and now we're starting to get the payoff for him being 0-everything in the BFG series so far. He's pissed off and basically says that it's time for the Bobby Roode from 2011 to make a return. And that's fine by me. Roode belongs in that upper echelon in TNA. But I wish he had found a different way to express this. We've heard this promo before. Longest reigning world champion in the history of this company, it factor, selfish generation, basically hitting every bullet point he repeated ad nauseum on a weekly basis when he had the title. Now those lines got old back then. If Roode is heading back to the main events now, then I hope the writers will give him some new material to work with, because reciting those same lines that he wore out the first time around isn't going to cut it anymore. Then we had our first BFG series match of the night with Roode versus Hernandez. The match goes too long, but Roode wins. Thank you. Using the beer bottle was interesting. I guess that's supposed to signify the return of the ruthless Bobby Roode, and if guys like Hernandez are going to be his victims, then I think that's just great. One thing about this, though. Can I say how stupid this Air Mexico spot is that Hernandez does all the time? The whole spot is dependent on his opponent standing there in the middle of the ring like a dumbass while he spends like 30 seconds setting this up. And it's the easiest move in the world to avoid. All you have to do is literally take 2 steps to the side and Hernandez will just pancake himself on the mat. I facepalm every time he hits someone with that thing. The fact that anyone on the roster is too stupid to get out of the way of that move when they have more than enough time to do it just baffles me.
You people are fools!
Jay Bradley versus Joseph Park. Not much to write home about, but I like that they're finally advancing the story of Joseph turning into Abyss when he gets busted open, with Eric Young trying to help him avoid it. If you think about it, something like this probably should have happened a lot sooner, but they're evolving the character now, and that's good. I think it was time for that. And I'm enjoying this pairing of Joseph and Eric, too. I think the writers could get some mileage out of these two together. That said, I'm really disappointed with what's happening with Jay Bradley. I would think that with TNA suddenly being down several big men, they'd want to get behind Bradley more. Apparently not. Sometimes in wrestling, it's the little things that make the biggest difference. Sometimes a small change to a gimmick or a character might not seem like much, but it can be the difference between a gimmick falling flat or working better than anyone expected. And yes, it can go both ways. It can be the difference between angry AJ Styles and emo AJ Styles. But in this case, it's the difference between Suicide, the stupid video game character come to life, and Manic, the alter ego of TJ Perkins that I'm finding more interesting than I ever thought I would. They did a really cool thing here where Chris Sabin confronted TJ backstage, and his mask was off, but the camera was always behind him. You never saw his face. I'm not sure why, but there was something strangely compelling about this. And combine that with his sort of creepy and unnatural line delivery, and they're slowly building an aura of a mystery around TJ/Manic that works where Suicide in the video game shtick did not. I don't really know how to explain it exactly, but I'm oddly fascinated by this character right now. It's weird. Chris Sabin versus Manic, champion versus champion. Hot damn. If you missed it, drop what you're doing and go watch it right now. A terrific match. Hurt only by the fact that it was face versus face with no real story or context, so it was a little tough to get invested in any way other than the fact that it was a hell of a match. This is why I wanted more of an explanation for this last week, and we did get a little bit of that in the pre-tape, but still, a little more storyline significance would have helped people buy into this more, I think. Bully Ray attacks post-match, Sabin fights him off so he looks strong. Perfectly fine hype for the rematch at Hardcore Justice in a few weeks, which I assume is where Bully will win the title back, but who knows. I confess, I really didn't pay much attention to Gail Kim versus ODB. I don't like saying it, but I just have no interest in watching this again. ODB spent half the match smacking her ass and groping her boobs and pretty much just did what she always does. And there was a time, yes, when I was amused by ODB's persona, but that was a long time ago. And she never changes anything. She just does the same trashy stuff over and over. Nothing we haven't seen from her before many, many times. It's been years of this now. I'm bored with it. I'm bored with her character. I'm bored with her matches. I don't care to see Gail Kim feuding with ODB again. I'm sorry. It's just retreading old ground when what I want to see is Gail in a fresh feud that offers something new and different. But she's feuded with everyone now, so that's not an option. So it's just going to be Gail rehashing old feuds now until they finally decide to sign a new knockout for her to fight. Why exactly is that taking so long, TNA?
You have no idea what the right decision would be.
Then we had our main event. For the first time ever, AJ Styles versus Austin Aries.
Yes!
The one drawback to this was that it felt like a longer match that got cut off early. There were like 5 minutes left in the show and they still had another segment to do. If this match had another 10 minutes, it would have been a match of the year contender. A little slow at first, but it escalated and they were doing some awesome stuff by the end, like the suicide dive into the steel steps. I can't talk this up enough. It was just a damn fine match, and if you didn't see it, you missed out. It ended with a double pin attempt, with Aries barely getting his shoulders up at the last second. And I was actually really surprised to see so many people online crapping on this finish. And yes, it came right the fuck out of nowhere, I'm not excusing that, and that did hurt this somewhat, but honestly, I thought the finish was okay. There was a conclusive winner, but it got over that it could have gone either way, leaving things unresolved to set up a rematch later on, which I think we all want to see, don't we? They couldn't blow their whole load in the first match, that would have been stupid. I don't understand why so many people were pissed off about this. We got nearly 18 minutes of Aries versus Styles, and this is what you're focusing on? Really?
Really?
No joke. Nitpicks aside, up until this point, this had been one of my most enjoyable impacts in ages. Then the final segment happened, and that's what's got everyone in an uproar. Main Event Mafia challenged the Pussies in Leather to a match, I think at Hardcore Justice. 5-on-5, the person who gets pinned has to leave TNA forever. I like this idea. I suspect this is how TNA will get rid of Nux, because that guy has been such a non-entity for the last year, hasn't done a damn thing worth talking about. He basically has no reason to exist. If that's the plan, more power to it. And for the record, TNA, if you wanted to use this to write Wes Briscoe off TV, that would be cool too.
You guys suck.
So Anderson accepts the match, the two groups are about to fight, and then Tito Ortiz comes out.
Say what?
Yeah. So those August1Warning videos TNA was uploading all week, that wasn't a wrestler, wasn't some new talent debuting, that was Tito Ortiz in what is probably some kind of Bellator cross-promotion thing. And instantly, everyone in the Twitter sphere starts losing their fucking minds, crying havoc, saying TNA are going out of business, they don't know what the hell they're doing, they make all these roster cuts just so they can bring in another MMA fighter? Guys, calm down. Let's backpedal a little bit here. First of all, if you just use your brains and look at the information that's right in front of you, I think it's pretty clear that this is a Bellator/Spike TV venture. They're probably footing most of the bill, if not the entire bill, for Tito Ortiz, so I highly doubt TNA is breaking the bank on this. Second, if they are paying an arm and a leg for this guy, then that must mean that they have the funds to do it. They wouldn't do this if they couldn't afford it, so TNA's financial situation can't be as bad as some morons out there are saying. Oh no, but they had to cut so many great talents just to make this happen! Right. Right, because Joey Ryan and Madison Rayne were huge superstars that the company can't possibly do without. And cutting the 42-year-old Tara, who is in such a critical position as the manager for the fucking bromance, is going to be the nail in TNA's coffin? Get over yourselves. TNA cut some talents that they didn't think they needed and brought in someone who might get them some attention. That's all that's going on here.
Oh, you were not aware of this?
Maybe some of you haven't noticed this, but TNA lost a good chunk of their viewership during the Pritchard regime. A publicity stunt to get them some mainstream exposure couldn't hurt. And it's not like this has never been done before, but WWE can have Mickey Rourke punch out Chris Jericho like a bitch, and that's okay? Floyd Mayweather can beat the Big Show, and that's okay? Kevin fucking Federline can pin John Cena, and that's perfectly acceptable? But TNA want to use Tito Ortiz, and suddenly it's, damn you, TNA, will you never learn? Ah! Fucking double standard, man. I'm so sick of this.
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
How dare they cut all those wrestlers from the roster who weren't going to make them any money only to bring in Tito Ortiz? Yes, he was trending worldwide moments after he appeared and was still trending the next day. But the fact that they had to cut Christian York and Alex Silva to make this happen is the most damning evidence ever that TNA is doomed. Doomed!
Will you sit down and quit making a fool out of yourself?
And then people are bitching that it's another MMA fighter who isn't going to do anything like King Mo and Rampage, and it's just going to be a big waste of time. And I don't disagree with that. I don't like it either. But frankly, this just reeks of something that Spike TV insisted TNA do. Spike really want Bellator to succeed. They've got Rampage versus Ortiz happening in November. Impact gets higher ratings, so Spike is using TNA to promote Rampage Ortiz for Bellator. And Dixie knows it's important they keep Spike happy, so they probably didn't have to twist her arm that much. Will it pay dividends in Impact's viewership? Possibly. We'll have to wait until next week to find out. And it's not like these MMA fighters have eaten up a ton of screen time so far. Mostly it's been pretty painless. Unnecessary, yes, but painless. That might change as November rolls around, but if it gets a few extra eyeballs watching Impact to see what happens in the meantime, how is that a bad thing? Yes, it's annoying that all these MMA guys keep showing up and are getting paid to do very little for what seems to be limited returns, but compared to Team Pac-Man and all the Jersey Shore nonsense, this isn't worth getting that upset about. It's really not. Now, it does bug me that Bellator seems to be reaping all the benefits of this cross-promotion stuff. TNA doesn't seem to get much out of it, but that's the situation they're in. As long as they're on Spike TV, these are just things that have to be done to keep the network happy. If they ever lose that TV deal, they're fucked and they know it. So the happier Spike TV is, the better off TNA will be. I will say that the reveal of Ortiz was pretty lame, all things considered. He comes out to awkward silence and he just stands there. The crowd is confused, they don't know what to make of it, so that could have been done a lot better. But those August1Warning videos were never shown on Impact, so the casual fans probably didn't know what was going on. Also, I think TNA and Bellator and Spike are probably overestimating Tito Ortiz's relevance in 2013. This would have been a pretty big deal, like 8 years ago. Now? Not really. But, again, he was trending worldwide, so if nothing else, people are talking about it. That's something, I guess. I gotta say, the reaction to this one really irritates me. Taz being shut out, 2 fantastic matches with Sabin Manic and Styles Aries, no Hogan sucking up TV time for a change, the Pussies in Leather kept to a minimum, Hernandez getting jobbed out to Bobby Roode. This episode kicked ass! And 10 seconds after it was over, the only thing people were talking about was how much they hated this Tito Ortiz thing and ignoring all the good stuff that happened here too. So I'm going to sign off by saying this. Try to calm down. Yes, this will probably end up being more about Bellator, and the potential gains for TNA seem limited. Yes, it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. See you next time.